Welcome to the podcast, and this one is with Al and Dave from their own podcast. They're called Lads, Dads, and a Couple of Beers. That's their podcast. Do check it out for yourself. It's just a couple of dads having a chat about life and stuff and mental health and things and their approach to the world and being a dad in this kind of modern world and being a bloke in this modern world. They're great. I came across them. I thought these guys are ladsy, they're bantery, they're clearly having a laugh with everything they do, which is, as you know me, it's what I love to do. But they're also dads. I'm very proud of being dads. And they're also stand-up guys, and they're proud of who they are and what they're about. And they're very open with their feelings, which, as if you know me, you know that's how I am as well. So I instantly like these guys. I wanted to share them with you guys and the audience that listen to me and this podcast. So thank you for checking us out as always. And this is just three dads, I guess, having a chat about dad stuff. And we discuss things like the word banter. You know, it talks about, oh yeah, lads just having a bit of banter. Is banter allowed? You know, we talk about mental health. We talk about some of the issues that Al particularly faces, the way he feels. And I've always said this, confident people are, you know, they're never as confident as you think. So someone who you might think is up there on stage like me, or even behind the decks like Al, you think, yeah, he's a DJ. He's, you know, of course, he's not going to have any issues. He's a cool DJ. But can often suffer from some really horrible anxiety feelings. So we talk a bit about that. And we talk about how much of that we pass on to our kids as well. And whether we should pass on the lessons that we've learned to our kids, or maybe those lessons aren't relevant. And maybe we shouldn't do that. So yeah, lots that we touched upon. And I really enjoyed this chat, and I'm hoping to get these guys on again and carry on this chat a bit more. This is now three lads, three dads, but no beers for me, having a chat on the Tommy Sandhu podcast. Enjoy.
Alan, Dave, welcome to the Tommy Sandhu podcast, first of all, and thank you for having me on your podcast. Cheers, man.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is nice. This is brand new territory for me because firstly, I've not done a joint podcast ever before, and as you know, maybe in our true nature, there's been no preparation for this whatsoever. So
no, we're gonna wing it.
Is this how you normally do it? Is this normally the way, Al?
I mean, we normally, if we normally get a guest on, we normally, obviously, me and Dave sit down, we talk before, we have a bit of a brief, but I think as we're 46 episodes in now, we just blag it, if I'm honest. No, we just don't, yeah.
But aren't you ever worried about the blag tokens running out? Because
no.
You're right.
No,
straight away, no. Listen, I've got a whole stack of blag tokens, and basically what you're so sure is that you can talk crap forever.
Tommy, if bullshit could fly, me and Dave would be in airport. Like, right, okay. It's not a problem.
Are you separate terminals? Are you in the same terminal, or do you cover different terminals?
I'm Terminal 5. I'm Terminal 5, so I'm a bit more classy, yeah, a bit more new. And Dave's probably a bit of the old Terminal 3.
EasyJet Luton, yeah.
Yeah. Your cargo, Luton.
Yeah, but you serve the real people, Dave. That's the difference. If you were at an airport.
And do you know what, Tommy? That's pretty. We joke, accurate. But that's quite how it is. Al is very analytical and logical in the way he thinks and the way he talks to people, because he has a lot more experience with mental health, and we cover different sections from the mental health scope. But you're right. I like to ask people what they've had for breakfast, what colour pants they wear, and where they went on holiday last year. I like the detail.
I guess without knowing,
Joe Public does. Yeah,
we just come up with a perfect analogy. I mean, Terminal 5 is classy. It's nice. I do all the editing. I do all the sorting that out. I get all the guests on. Dave comes on and asks the hard questions. So it does kind of work in that way, I guess.
And would you? That's pretty ballsy. I've got to say, straight away to be a dad's kind of mental health podcast, because the way I came across you guys was I was looking for mental healthy, dadsy related podcasts, because being a modern dad myself and being hands-on with the kids myself and juggling work and all that, you're like, yeah, what is out there? And you see all these, mums ones, and they're brilliant, they're doing well, and my missus will go on about it and go, oh, you got to hear Fern Cotton's one, and you got to hear this one and that, oh, this is brilliant. But I can only relate so far because I'm a dad, and then I've got a different sort of game and a different head and a different approach to it all. And then I came across yours, and I was like, oh, this is the. If I'm going to be honest, it's the first proper one, first decent one I've come across where actually it's what I found was it's people having a laugh with it, and also maybe it's because of where you're geographically, where you're from, because you're from just outside London. I'm on the kind of East London / Essex borders, so I don't know. I just felt like straight away I'm like, these are my kind of people, and yet we wouldn't meet in any other.
And that's exactly what we tried to do, Tommy. We didn't want it to be bleak and depressing, or even it be really heavy and hard hitting. Now, I've gone on many podcasts talking about mental health myself, and been a huge advocate for mental health. And every time I do one, and I know a lot of the guys who have these podcasts do listen to us, and it's no disrespect to them at all, but they're just outset's different. Their goal is different. I come out of them feeling worse off sometimes. They're so doom and gloom. They're very depressing. Okay, you get to a core subject, but it makes you too over reflective. And when you get inside that mindset, it can be really tiresome and exhausting. So with me and Dave, we literally like to, pardon the expression, but rip the shit out of it. Like we want to have such a laugh with it. But if we need to get deep, we do get deep, and we will get deep. There's some beautiful moments on the podcast where we can go from being really, really laughy and joking and lads banter, as you know, typically would call it, to diving into something where we're crying the next. And it's such a good balance to have, and it does show men out there that you can be in that mindset one stage and in that mindset another. The two can go hand in hand if you allow it to.
And I think you're right. What you're saying about that we wouldn't meet in normal life, Tommy, and the connection that we have, and it's quite a basic connection, but it's actually what makes the podcast really successful. Is we were probably all once upon a time lads, or we like to think we were lads. Now we've grown up and we're dads, and the common denominator there is that we all have our children in our family and we want the best for them, but we all have such similar struggles. But a lot of the people that will listen to this think they're on their own. Think, oh mate, I'm struggling to pay the bills this month. Oh, January's been like 25 weeks long, but everybody's like that, and that's the connection.
Yeah, and you're right. Just on I've got so many questions really, because I suppose I've not had a chance to talk to other dads. One of the things I want to do on my podcast is get into more of the dad world and get guys opening up. I find when I do one-on-one chats with guys, God, brilliant. I'll get so much out of it, but no one's willing to put it out there. No, there's some restrictions. There's still the stigmas attached to kind of signs of weakness and just being able to put a front on and get on with it. But how much do you still feel like lads? Do you? Because you're saying lads. I'm like, I don't know whether I've got lad stamina in me anymore. I can't. Well,
we're clutching. We're clutching. I mean, Dave's a bit older than me. I'm 35. Dave's 41 in couple of weeks. So
thanks.
Yeah, no problem, mate. So
I'm 45. I'll take top rank on age. So it's like so 45, 41, and 35. It's a nice mix. There you go.
I'll take that.
Right.
But yeah, we are clutching onto it. We have our moments, me and Dave. We do like to go out and have our lads night, so to put it, like, especially if we hit it off with a guest, a celeb guest or something like that, we'd often say, we'll go out for a couple of beers in London, and we do, and we have those nights where we get a bit laddish, but I think we'd be lying if we said we didn't really want to be at home by midnight, tucked up in bed, worrying about a hangover the next day.
Yeah.
But for me, our laddish level is on point and probably higher than it's ever been, Tommy, with our banter. So me and Al have known each other for 20 years, and you will struggle to find two people that know that much about each other, but also tear the shit out of each other just about anything and everything. Serious things, not so serious things. So our banter is still very, very laddish. I'd probably even go as much to say immature rather than laddish.
Yeah.
And okay, and here's the first question, because this is key for me and things that I've kind of been through. Is banter okay? Because you've used the word so much, but however, I can tell you for a fact at places I've worked with, lawyers and solicitors I've met, banter is now a naughty word. It's a naughty word. It's inappropriate.
It's taboo. We've discussed this in depth on the podcast again, like we are now, and it is such a tough line. I think if you're having banter with someone and whoever's reciprocating it seemingly looks like they're okay with it, then I would say just know your limits, know your boundaries. Too many people use the excuse, oh, it's just banter, it's just banter. And this whole thing of, because I speak about it in the podcast, that I'm not very good at taking a joke. But as much as we talk about it, as much as we say we banter, I know Dave wouldn't pick on my insecurities or any of my idiosyncrasies and rip them apart to the point where I'm feeling really crap about myself. That's not banter, that's bullying. Now, there is a huge difference between banter and bullying, especially in the workplace. I do think it depends on the job you do. If you're on a building site, for example, like I come from a trade background, so I've had to grow up through that experiences of being on building sites and being with plumbers and the banter flowing about. And I've struggled at times. I really have. I don't do well in an alpha off. If there's a huge alpha environment, I don't do well in it. Where Dave could sometimes excel in that because he's a lot more thicker skinned than me. I'm really thin skinned. So it does come down to the individual, but I do hear what you're saying about the whole banter thing. I think people need to take it back to what banter actually is. It's a little bit of light-hearted fun. If I said to you, Tommy, I've never met you before in my life. If I start joking with you in the pub, and let's just say you came to get a drink, and I said, "Oh, sorry, mate," and I went, "I don't worry about it, Baldy. That's out of order. I don't know you." Now, some people might go, "No, that's banter." I said, "Well, I don't know the bloke, and I've just picked on him." Now, he might be having a really shit day, and that's just done him. He might have just come from a clinic down Harvey Street where he's gone to get a hair transplant, and I've just pulled up and gone, "All right, Baldy." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you do have to pick your moments, and you do have to be very careful with who you do it with. That's my opinion. I don't know about Dave.
Yeah, know your audience is particularly is key. But
you can't, Dave. Let me just chip in there. You can't know your audience, not all the time, because like you just said,
no, you can't.
So I do stand up, and there was two guys front row, and I said, "Oh, you're an interesting pairing." And if I'm honest, because I get mixed crowds in my stand-up crowds, mainly Asian crowds, British Asians. It's a guy with a beard and a turban next to a bald white guy. And I said, "Oh, how do you two know each other?" They said, "Oh, we do kidney dialysis together." And I went, bang, stopped in my tracks. There is no joke. There is nowhere I take that. And
yeah, that's called a comedy cock block.
Right, full on 2 foot tackle to the, and I'm like, okay, I did that, and the audience laughed anyway because they knew they went, "Oh, look at him, he's screwed. He's got nowhere to go." But what I mean is, you can't always know your audience. You don't know what someone's going through. You don't know if I'm going to kind of joke about coronavirus and someone just lost it.
I think with that, Tommy, though, in your setting of doing stand-up, you're going to expect it. If I was having a really bad day, because I used to do a bit of stand-up, if I was having a really bad day, I was at a stand-up gig and I sat at the front row, I wouldn't put myself in that position. Some people have got to be a bit more savvy than that.
Yeah, and I agree with that. If they're going to see a stand-up show, the banter that you get at a stand-up show, also sitting front row, you're putting yourself in it. I sat front row at a Jimmy Carr gig in St Albans at the Albany Arena, and unbeknown to Jimmy, part of his sketch or part of his show that he was put on, he was talking about epilepsy, and I'm an epilepsy sufferer. And when he asked the audience, "Oh, does anybody here suffer with epilepsy?" and the 6 foot 18 stone bald guy on the front row puts his hand up, Jimmy just looked at me and went, "Oh shit." And I was like, just go with it, mate. Like, I'm there, I've paid to see it, I'm expecting that level of banter. And there's also got to be some kind of relationship as well. Like Al said, you've got to have established a relationship with that person. 100%. Otherwise, you're walking on very thin ice.
But let me ask you, Tommy,
is a really good point.
Yeah, have you through your friends that you've got, has anyone ever said to you something and you thought they've meant it in a jesting banter, banterish comment, banterish way, and you've took it a little bit to heart?
I'm all the time. Well, I think, like you, Al, I'm the sensitive one, and also very interestingly, which we'll come back to in a second, I've got what I would call thick-skinned mates because I admire that in them. I'm sure there's an admiration that you two have for each other, with Dave being the way Dave is. Dave sees Al for what Al is, and I know my mates, the close ones, know me for being a bit sensitive. I've got 2 sisters, don't have any brothers, never been in a fist fight in my life, never, just don't. That's just been my path. I've always been joke my way through it all. Even when things have kicked off in clubs, I've joked myself out of it. Joke my way out of it. Or I've known the doorman and gone, yeah, stop the fight from happening. And I'm 6'2" with a bald head, but I don't know how to fight. I don't think I could. But so, but I've had, because I used to work in the radio and I was known in the British Asian scene quite a lot. I've had people come up to me, for example, and it was when I was a little bit pissed up as well. I had a few drinks as well. And someone, "Hi, Tommy, you," and they called me the C word. And they said it in front of, I was with a group of about 10 people. Yeah. But it's like, "Oh, are you? Yeah, you," right? And they just said it like that. And I remember thinking, because I'd had a few drinks, I remember thinking, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
like,
that's
what? Right? And but I went, straight away, I'm going to go sit in the car. I went back to the taxi. We're going to get some food. I told them to get my food. I'm going to sit in the car. I'm not going to chat to them because they're pissed, and they're going to, or like when I've been at cricket matches, I'm covering cricket, people get me in a headlock from behind and rub my head. I don't know if you get that, Dave, a lot. When you got a ball there, they want to take, and I think, I don't know if you got piss all over your hands or what you've been. So that I don't like. I don't do that. Like, I probably like you, Al. Like I don't do rough play. I don't do rough play. I don't grab someone in the headlock. I don't ruffle someone's hair. I don't go, "All right, you little mucker." I don't do that. I'd rather go, "You all right? How's it going?"
That's the funny note, because you said about the head thing. I wear baseball caps quite a lot.
Right.
And if I'm out somewhere, if someone flicks the cap off, I'll give you three chances. Like, I'll give you one chance to say sorry, give you another chance to explain why. And if you don't, then I'm going to let you have it. Like, I can't make an excuse for that. Like, it's the one thing in life that I wish I didn't have that about me, because it's the only thing that really gets me angry.
But it's disrespect. It is hugely disrespectful. And if you don't know that as a social code, that is disrespectful. Like, even when I walk into a group of guys, I won't go in all big. I'm a big personality. I know I am. I do stand up. I go on stages all the time. I'm more than capable of holding my own in a room full of. But I'll purposely go in low key, because I think is the right thing to do. And also, you gain people's trust, and I teach my boys that. I've got 2 lads, and so I'm jumping around loads of topics here, but I think it's about reading the room. It's about having your radar on, and I think I've got an emotional radar because I've got 2 sisters, and I think women bring that. And I'm going to come back to Dave for a second, because I'm always you've teed up Dave as being the thick-skinned one, so I'm like, I'm curious about people who have got thick-skinned on the outside, because I wonder, can anyone really have thick skin? Can you be a nice guy and have thick skin? I don't know.
So to give you a bit of background on me, I have 3 sisters that are all older, no brothers. My father passed away when I was 10, so I've been in a whole female environment my entire life. And when Al talks about thick skin, he's right. And I think the reason why I have a thick skin is, to be perfectly blunt, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of me. I just don't care. It doesn't register like that. So Al's very much of a people pleaser, and he'll do anything to make people happy. I like happiness in other people's joy, but at the same time, I don't care if they don't like me. I'm not going to change for anybody. I am who I am. And
the good thing about Dave as well, he's the comeback king. Like, if you try and banter him off in the pub, he might be quiet for 10 seconds to let you have your moment. Whatever he comes back with, he's making you look an absolute muppet. Like, his comebacks are phenomenal.
But you got to be smart. You got to be smart to do that as well. You got to be, because you got to know how to think about. It's not going to look desperate and all those things.
I don't know whereabouts in the country you are. I know you're sort of East London, Essexy borders, but I live in a little village as well. And the stereotypical thing that comes in a little village, and me and Al used to grow up in Welwyn Garden City together, is it's very gossipy, very gossipy. Even Welwyn Garden City is very gossipy, and the village that I live in now can be very gossipy.
Dave's having an affair with the milkman at the moment.
Yeah. But don't tell him, he doesn't know yet.
No, he doesn't know that yet.
But it's weird. It came with age, and that is that I care so much a lot about my family and my friends. And the episode that we've just had out, we've spoken about broken friendships as well. And that hit me quite a lot, broken friendships and the group of friends that I thought I had for a long amount of my time. But that kind of drew a line in the sand for me as well. Life is far too short in my eyes. Like, I love my family. I've had a lot of loss and a lot of grief in my life, which I talk about on the podcast. But I just don't care what people think of me anymore. I'm not an arsehole. I'm not one of them people that goes out, fuck you. Like, I'll do that. I'll park in the disabled space. I'll do whatever. I'm not that person.
Well, that's not true. But okay.
Well, yeah, but it's not our podcast.
Sorry, like.
But I'm a nice guy. I don't break the law. I'm pretty law abiding. I've got a good job and everything like that. And I care a lot about my family. And I love my friends as if they're my family. But everybody else, if you don't like me, keep it to yourself. I'm not really bothered. And even if they didn't keep it to themselves, I don't lose no sleep.
Okay, but is that something that comes with age then, Dave? Is that something that you've grown into?
A million percent. I think I'm probably a little bit older than my time. So I don't even know if most people would be there, but by the time they're 40. But I'm definitely an old head. Alex has a habit of calling me boring as well, which I completely understand because, like you said, Tommy, when you go out, it is banter, and I know that he loves me really. But when we go out and everybody else is getting really pissed, I don't get really pissed. I'll have a good few drinks, but I don't get really pissed. But I'm the protector. I'm the one that's watching, waiting for something to kick off and to remove people from the situation and stuff like that. I want everybody to get home safe.
But that comes with age, doesn't it? But interesting that you say about how you've got older, you've just like you don't care. I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I didn't give a toss when I was younger. Like when me and Dave used to DJ and we'd link up at the end of the night and something had kicked off over the decks or whatever, because Dave would DJ at a bar over the road and I was in a bar over the road, and we'd sort of cross over at some points throughout the night. And we'd swap stories about what happened, this kind of stuff. And I just wouldn't give a toss. But I'm the complete opposite. I worry about everything. I worry about how everything's, if everyone's looking at me, if I've done something wrong. I DJ'd at a bar in, where was
London Bridge.
Yeah, London Bridge, Tower Bridge, just before Christmas. And it was, to set the scene, it was city bankers, not a skin fade in sight, double-breasted suits everywhere, just total cokeheads, right? They were just yuppies, just everywhere. And I just now I would have thrived in that 15 years ago behind the decks. I was so scared. Shaking, dropping a mix. The beats were just off to the point where I had to go outside. I played like a 14-minute mix of house mix, went outside, popped a Valium, went back in, felt fine. And that got me through the night.
Why was that? What
anxiety? Just anxiety
from them, because of them and who they are.
Just the rowdiness of it. I just couldn't. They were very overbearing. They were very in your face. They were all obviously.
And you were on your own.
I was on my own as well. Normally I DJ with another fella, and I just felt extremely out of my element. Where, like I said before, I would have thrived in that. I used to travel the world DJing on my own from a young age. I loved it. It was what I did. I thought it was my identity. And in that particular moment, I was just like, how have I got to this point in my life where I'm worrying about everything? I can't control it. The anxiety is crippling me. And I had some Valium, which was prescribed. So I went and took one, and I was fine then. But I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to self-medicate myself to get through things. Yeah. And it's just interesting to hear Dave say that, obviously, when he was younger, he might have been, but now he just doesn't give a toss, where I'm the opposite, complete opposite.
Yeah. And is that because you think as you're getting older, you're over-reading into situations?
Oh,
do we
100%.
need to not read? And is, like we say you've got to read the room, you've got to know your audience, got to understand people, got to see where people are coming from. It's always the nicest guys that suffer with mental health issues because they're so sensitive. Yeah. And that's why, again, I've got thick-skinned mates. I've got, like say my equivalent of your Dave, as it were, who are like, telling me, don't worry about it. You're Tommy, you'll be fine with this. No, screw them, screw that. And actually, I can't. No, we can't shrug it off like
to
that.
Say to someone, just don't worry about it, is like telling water not to be wet. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You're asking me to do something I have no control over. And I always get it with some of my mates who don't understand mental health. It's like, do you think I want to feel like this? Like, it's not something I asked for. And I've tried everything. It's just something that over my life has got worse and worse. And we had a guy on our podcast who's a good friend of the podcast called John Stacey. He runs a mental health support network called Mental Health Support for Dads. And he speaks about the scientific aspect of depression and anxiety within your brain, how your frontal lobe of your brain will produce more electrolytes and enzymes and everything like that to make the functions of your chemicals in your brain run more sufficiently to adrenaline or not, therefore meaning that you will reciprocate and react differently to certain situations, where Dave will see something like a mum standing on the road waiting to cross as perfectly fine, where my anxiety at that point is like, shit, is that kid gonna get one over? Is everything gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Like my mind just starts going crazy, and I'm like, well, watch them cross them, and I do this thing, and Dave picks up on a few times. Take like 5 in breaths, and I'm out. And he's like, "You're right," and I'm like, "Yeah, just one of them." Okay, and we crack on. But it's hard to explain to people who don't get it. It really is.
No, I do get it. But does the breathing? So is that a breathing exercise that you do,
no,
or is that a reaction?
It's a panic.
It's a reaction. But then, so how much are you aware of breath and breathing and your breathing? And do
Constantly.
you breathe and are you aware? Do you do it consciously? Only a few months ago, I got into this. Someone mentioned the book. I think it's called Breathe or Nose or something like that. Something very simple, and it's about breathing through your nose and about how that regulates and what that does, and you get more nitrogen into your system and all that. And I went to Dubai to cover the cricket in October for a month. It done me the world of good because selfishly I wasn't around the kids and I wasn't around the normal routines. And well, it kind of, yeah, but I've told my missus, and she knows, so I'm pointing over there because she's over there. I feel, bad.
With a knife.
I said, yeah, exactly. Kind of, you're finished.
Yeah. Think you're bald now, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna shave your back. No, she's. But you kind of just have time to yourself. So every morning, I would just have that bit of time to breathe, relax, go to the gym, get my feel good on, and then go.
Get your shit together.
And it was so helpful. But the breathing thing was a game changer. How much do you? It sounds stupid, like a stupid question, I suppose. How much do you breathe out?
Not a stupid question. Not a stupid question at all.
How much do you consciously, awaringly breathe?
Because oxygen is the best medicine you can get. Not to get too Wim Hof and herbal on you, but it's the best medicine you can get. If you can get oxygen into your system, it puts it straight to your brain. That's where it goes. So it relaxes your muscles in your brain. Therefore, your brain is not running overdrive. That's just common science. If you can get oxygen in your system and lower your heart rate, then you'll get through whatever situation you're happening at the time. I do breathing, I do meditation most mornings. And meditation, again, it's a bit like the word banter. It's very taboo at the moment. People seem to think meditation is based around sitting there, legs folded, listening to whale music, drinking green tea, buying a Prius and going to hug a tree. It's not about that. If you can sit in silence and just breathe. In for 5, out for 5. In for 5, out for 5. Hold for 10, out for 10. Just do it for 2 minutes. Beginning your day, the minute you wake up, sets you up. That's what I do every morning. And it just helps massively. The days I don't do it, Tommy, I notice it.
Yeah, exactly. When he says that then, Dave, because you're from the school of thick skin, then
Dave gets up and has a bottle of Jack Daniels. Like,
yeah, I have a kebab. That's when I'm silent. When all I can do is the chewing of lamb. No, but I'm thinking, but is that really alien to you then, Dave? Or are you like,
not at all. Not at all. Even being thick-skinned, it doesn't mean that you're not in touch with your body or in touch with your feelings or your emotions. I have a Peloton. Al takes the piss out of me for having a Peloton. For those of you that don't know what a Peloton is, it's an exercise bike that has online exercise programs.
He kept telling me about this guy called Peloton who used to give his wife a workout, and I was convinced she was having an affair because I didn't know what one was.
She's in the other room all out of
I just thought it was this new trendy name, Peloton. Yeah, kids are called all sorts these days.
I do a spin class in the morning, or like Al, it has meditation programs on there. It also has yoga, so I like to do a bit of yoga and a bit of stretching. But no, just because I'm thick-skinned and I'm not really bothered about the way that people see me, or I'm happy in me. I mean, I think most of us could probably be a little bit fitter, and I definitely know I could lose some weight, but mentally I'm happy with me. So yeah, I know that why Al does his meditation because of his anxiety, but I like to get a sweat on, and that's kind of my chi, the way I set up my mornings. I'm always up really early as well.
I feel like the podcast just got a bit sexy. Just got a little, when you just said sweat on, it just felt like, oh, what's that? What's that feeling? Oh, hello. So I've got a little tingle inside.
Mate, it got sexy from the minute we logged on. What are you talking about?
True. I'm trying to play hard to get.
I went from 6 to midnight the minute I saw you.
I don't get to midnight anymore. I'm 8:30 best.
Curvature.
On the dad angle though, how much do you worry or are concerned about projecting your own take on life, your own lessons of life, or your own issues onto your kids? So, because of things I've been through, I can be a bit like, hey, the world's a tough place, and you got to look out, and you got to remember, that it can you might encounter, for my kids, racism. You may not, and it might be all rosy, and things might have changed by the time they reach, times when they're going out. But I used to go out in the early '90s in Romford, clubbing, because I love house music then, and then later garage. But to get that music, you'd go to very white clubs, and it would be fine. It was good as gold in the club, all that. But you just had to be a bit weary at 2-3 a.m., particularly because if you were someone of color, then you might be a target. So things like that, I might be projecting onto them, but that might be completely irrelevant. It might be like, them talking about the plague. Like my grand, kind of going, oh, got to watch out for the plague. Like, no, it's irrelevant. Well, maybe it's not relevant for COVID, but my point is, how, with your own issues, with the things that you've learned about life, should you pass those on to your kids or not?
I'll go first. I think 100% you should teach your children the lessons that you want to teach them. And someone that's coming from, my dad died when I was very young. I wish I'd had more of his learnings growing up. Obviously, growing up without a dad, there's loads of things like how to shave and all stuff like that. I think I can be quite firm with my children because I want my children to behave in a certain way, and I want people to know that they're good kids. Nothing that I do, Tommy, would be to hurt them. And I think we can probably all reflect back on something that our dad told us when we were little that we probably pooed off, but now we're like, he was right. He was right. So no, and I just want to pick up on one thing that you said, like going to Dubai and working out there for Dubai and not being around the children. I think it's really key that that people need to know, just because you're a dad, it doesn't stop you from being Tommy. Like, it's really important that you're still you, even though you are a dad, and
not to feel guilty about that time either. Like, use it.
No, and when your children see you happy, they're happier because mum and dad are happy. Like, it's simple. So there's
nothing worse than a stressed out parent.
No.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that, sorry, Tommy, to cut you off. I honestly think that where we are right now in generations, it is the hardest time currently to be a parent with everything that goes on within the world. COVID, explaining BLM, explaining racism, explaining, what you see on a computer screen, explaining what you see in films, how everything is just in children's faces. Like, their eyes are open to so much more than what ours were when we were kids. It does damage them. It does damage their mental health, which is a completely different conversation to have. But I honestly do believe that where parents are now, if you're managing to keep your children sane, you're managing to keep them polite, keep them in education, keep them learning, keep them being good kids, you're a super parent. You really are. Yeah. And if that means that you get your time in Dubai whilst you're working and you come back being super dad, mate, do it, bro.
Yeah, for about a week, then it all went downhill. I feel great. I missed you guys so much. 15 minutes later, you're like, oh, for God's sake, get me back. No, listen, guys, this has been amazing, and I actually do feel, I don't know, I'm sure you guys do this a lot more often, I suppose, because you get to talk to each other about it. But I feel like we just scratched the surface. There's so many other things that are kind of shooting off from this that I kind of want to talk about. So I'm gonna declare it, even though whilst we're still on our first date, I'd like to have another date. I'd like to do this again. And Sandhu, my producer, is messaging me saying we should do this again at the same time as I said that. So it's like we're all tuned in. Because this is great and it's refreshing. And I think culturally you're from different backgrounds, but you said at the very beginning.
What are you talking about? Me and Dave from India.
You're right. You're mountain people. Yeah,
we're called Dave and Al. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen, actually, you'll be surprised. Here you are with an Indian called Tommy. So, you know.
I was going to ask you that. Is Tommy your ignorance on my behalf? And I apologise for it.
No.
But is Tommy actually your name you were born with?
It is the name I was given before any other name. That's the key thing. So I do have an Indian name as well. But in Punjab, particularly Punjabis who are from the north of India, who are now British Punjab, born over here, we've all got these nicknames. So you'll meet all these kind of Sonny, Lucky, Jimmy, Tony, Billy, Bobby, you know, Happy. And that's a very Punjabi thing to do. But they gave me Tommy. My dad gave me Tommy because he got chased, beaten up. There was problems with race and racism. So the idea was, we can trick them with our English names. And I think they'll realise that when we turn up though. But the idea was to fit in because it wasn't like we're not trying to hang on to anything. It was more like, hey, we're here and we're happy to be here and we're proud to be a part of British culture. So he's always said to me from day one, this is a topic for another time. He said, if there's a war, you know, you are British. That's who you should fight for. This is where your kids are. It's where your home is. So I've always felt very proud of this, but I just love my history as well. I love the fact that enriches you with something else. It's a bit like being me, but also being a West Ham fan. I stand for something. I thought I'd leave you with that one. Oh, look at the upset. Look at the upset. Okay. We have to put this up another time. We are out of time on that.
We'll do a part 2, 100%.
I mean that, Al. Honestly, Dave, thank you. Honestly, I've got a strong connection. I feel a strong connection here, and I've loved this. So I'd love to do it again very soon.
100%.
Thanks for having us on, Tommy. It's been a pleasure.
Nice one. Until next time, guys. Cheers.
Thank you, mate.
So
Take care.
Much love.
I heard, genuinely, this is just as a fact, I heard that if you hit subscribe to this podcast now, if you have subscribed on Apple or on Spotify or on JioSaavn or wherever you are listening right now, if you are subscribing and getting that on a regular, which means you get the little notification when the new episode comes out, fact, this is a fact. Don't tell no one else's. If you hit subscribe, you can eat as many jalebis as you want and you will never put on weight. I know. I don't understand the logic. It makes no sense to me. I mean, how's a podcast relate to the DNA way in which your body breaks down jalebi sugar stuff running through your... I don't understand, but what I do know, it's a little cheat to life. So if you like jalebis, then you should hit subscribe to this podcast. Oh, and follow us on social media too. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us. Eat jalebis. Be happy.